Talking Tolkien Podcast, Episode 12, The Silmarillion, Chapter 5, of Eldamar and the Princes of the Eldalie. Alright, go ahead. Hi everyone, John Carswell here. Welcome to the Talking Tolkien Podcast, your conversational guide to Middle-earth and the works of J.R.R. Tolkien. On this episode of the podcast, we resume our discussion of the Silmarillion with Chapter 5, wherein the Eldar make their journey over the sea to Valinor. We'll also be introduced to the vitally important figure Feanor, as well as the Lord of the Rings figures Galadriel and Círdan the Shipwright. Also, please leave us a rating and feedback on iTunes. We'd love to know what you think of the show. Enjoy! Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Talking Tolkien Podcast. This is episode 12, and we are ready to get rolling on the Silmarillion again. We had stopped, done some episodes on Leaf by Niggle. Actually one just epic episode that we had to break into two parts. And so we're back ready to do some more on the Silmarillion. With me, as always, is Greta. Greta, how are you?
I'm well, John. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Good.
Yeah, so, Greta.
Nope. The answer is no.
What?
I haven't read your book yet.
Oh, okay.
But I did write some haikus.
Good. Oh, awesome. That's my very next question. Before we jump into that, we actually have some very, very important business, a very important... shall we say glaring oversight to correct.
Oh my, that sounds ominous.
Yes, well, it feels ominous, even as I say it. So, I was recently contacted by a gentleman who, you can see his comment actually on the episode 9 podcast of Thingol and Million. So he kindly informed me that he loves the podcast, and he's a Wayne's World fan as well, a child of the 90s, I believe was his words.
A teen, and I think he said, in the 90s.
Yes, a teen in the 90s,
mm-hmm.
as were we. And so he really loved the Wayne's World references. And so he commented that we had forgotten to mention or make reference to the fact during the Thingol and Melion episode. I can never feel like I can say her name right. Melion. I don't know, but Melion
sounds pretty.
Yeah, that's okay. I get corrected on these pronunciations sometimes by a 13-year-old, so I have to make sure I get them right. So, another listener to the podcast. So this particular listener, though, said that he was really surprised listening to this episode that we didn't point out the scene in which Wayne...
Wait, I wrote a haiku about this.
Oh. You want to read the haiku then?
I do.
Okay.
Can I?
Okay. Is the world ready for this?
I don't know.
Right.
I kind of got on a roll, and I couldn't resist.
Oh, man.
Now, I want everybody to know that this is probably my first attempt at haikus since, when was the last time I would have been required to write them in school? Maybe...
Probably,
elementary school?
Probably high school.
You think high school?
Yeah, if your high school was worth anything.
Yeah.
What had you writing haikus every day, man? I
guess that's probably true. Yeah. Doesn't speak well of my school. But anyway, so keep that in mind. I haven't written haikus in quite a while, but here's my response to the glaring oversight brought up by our kind listener. All right. Let me clear my throat. Alone in the woods, Elwë sees a glowing face. Whoa! She's a babe! Swing!
Nice. Okay. I didn't count that, though. Let's see. Alone. So, read it again.
Alone in the woods.
That's 5. Alone Alone in the woods. Okay.
That's right. 5,
Yeah, 5.
right? Okay. Elway.
Elway.
Sees.
A glowing face. Okay.
7. Whoa. She's a babe. Schwing.
Excellent.
Yes.
Well done.
Yes.
Well done, Greta.
Thank you.
Party on, Greta.
Party on, Garth.
Yeah, party on.
I meant party on, John. Party on, Wayne.
Party on, yes. Good job. So yes, you need to go click the link and see this reference. But basically, it was the scene in which Wayne, in the first Wayne's World movie, when Wayne first sees Cassandra, his future girlfriend, playing bass on the stage.
Yep.
And it actually plays that old classic rock song, "Whoa, Dreamweaver." Yeah. It has like the glowing effect around her, so it's just like the perfect reference.
Yeah,
I couldn't believe that I had not caught that. So, I think part of it maybe was I was kind of unsure about the whole Wayne's World references thing. I was like, I really don't want people to like get tired of that. So, but now that he has written back and said how much he loves that, and no one else has told me otherwise, I think we're going to pretty much do a Wayne's World reference in every episode from here on out. So
we will do our best
to
do at least one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I should have just known that from the very beginning, basically, like that we should do a Wayne's World reference in every episode. So, failure.
Many thanks to our listener,
to Jared,
yes, who brought that to our attention, because that really was absolutely perfect.
Absolutely.
And I think I'm speaking for both of us when I say we wish we had thought of it first.
Yes.
So good job. Good on you.
Did we start doing the haiku thing because of that part in the movie, in the Wayne's World movie, where Garth says something and then like
yes, I think that's.
Whoa, Garth, that was a haiku.
I don't know if that's why we started, but if not, that's kind of a cool coincidence.
All right, well, it is kind of a cool coincidence. It's all coming together.
It is.
It's all starting to make sense.
We need to rewatch those movies this weekend so we can do our next episode right with the references.
True. We need to get really schooled on those references and like watch all the old SNL skits for Wayne's World as well.
We could maybe even dress up in our costumes while we watch them.
I don't have my costume anymore.
Well, we could get new ones.
It's easy for you. All you have to do is put on a black t-shirt and jeans.
And a black hat.
Yeah.
That says Wayne's World.
That's true. We made one of those.
We made one. Yeah, we got a black hat, and then we got like a white marker.
Yeah. And
wrote Wayne's World on it. It was totally cheesy and cheap, but it worked.
It looked really nice. Your costume looked awesome. Mine was a little, just because I don't really have the same body type as Garth, but but you looked at the part perfectly because your hair was like, you have the dark hair, perfect length for Wayne and everything like that. So it's kind of strange how well you played that part.
You're making me feel uncomfortable, John.
Well, sorry. Okay, we'll move on. Moving on. So we need to talk though about this chapter. So chapter 5.
Let's do it.
So you shared a haiku. Did you want to share a haiku about this chapter now? That was kind of about this chapter because there's a little bit about, like, it repeats a little bit about that particular scene in this chapter. But did you have another one specifically about this chapter?
Actually, I have 2.
Yeah, go ahead. We'll do one and then I'll do one.
Okay, sweet. We'll have a haiku.
Haiku off.
Haiku off.
Yeah.
That's it.
Maybe if people want to come vote on what the best haiku was, they're welcome to.
Or submit your own haikus and we'll read them on the air.
Yeah, I like the idea of voting too, though. You can definitely submit your own and we'll read them on the air.
You have such an unfair advantage on me, though.
No, but you don't understand. It's not. Why? Because I have a master's in English?
Yes, that's exactly why.
Well, okay, but here's the thing. Like, poetry is not about how smart you are. It's about the genius of the poetry, and I promise you that there are people with far less formal education out there who could write far better poetry than I can. Okay?
Yeah.
So, just...
All right, fine.
Yeah. So we should definitely...
I
want to hear what people think. I want to hear if there's any votes, so...
I don't feel as intimidated now, but I feel a little bit like I played my ace already.
Okay, well, that was pretty good. I mean, that counts, so they can vote for that one. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So I'm like looking at my other ones, and they seem pretty lame.
Well, let's just go with them. Mine seem pretty lame, too, so...
Okay. Do you want to go first? You go first.
No,
I already shared one.
Okay, all right.
Now, this is about chapter
5.
5.
Yeah. All right, everybody get in their haiku mood.
Can you say it again? Because I don't know how to pronounce the chapter name.
Of Eldamar and the Princes of the Eldalie.
Okay, Eldalie. That's a fun word to say.
Yeah, it is a fun word.
Okay.
All right, here we go. Haiku 1. The sea calls. Ulmo moves an island, while under stars, Elwë dreams dark light.
While Elwë dreams dark light. Okay.
Yeah.
There we go with Elwë again. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right, mine's a little similar. Mine is floating on the waves. Ulmo sails the Eldar home on an island ship.
Nice.
Thanks.
Good job. All right. Here's my second one. All right. Vanyar ascend, while Noldor ride and mine. Sing Teleri of the sea.
Oh, that one's pretty good.
Yeah.
A good way to help us remember all the different groups of elves.
That's right.
Yeah. I couldn't keep them all straight, so I didn't include names in mine.
Yeah.
All right, here's my haiku too. Living long away, desperate for reunion, swans liberate elves.
Nice. That's pretty good.
Is that pretty good?
I think so. Yeah.
Thanks. Well, I was I gotta admit, this chapter was a little hard for me. It seemed like, again, a lot more background, not a whole lot of action, just more setting the stage.
Yeah.
And I was trying hard.
Yeah, not a lot of action. I mean, they only moved an entire island to move some people across the sea. That's not much action, I know. Sorry.
Well, I mean, it happened like
kind
that.
Kind of boring.
You know, I mean, but when you're
he
talking about like Melkor smashing stuff, you know,
so you're saying
and being
basically
dragged away by Tulkas. I mean, you can't get much more exciting than that.
Yeah.
So what I was trying to say was that with my haikus, I was really I went for I wanted to write my haiku on what I felt, what events gave me the clearest visual pictures.
Yeah,
that's what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
So I loved the visual picture of Ulmo uprooting an island.
Yeah.
And like pulling it across the sea.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool. And then I believe that the swans pulling the ships of the Teleri, that is in Evans. He has a picture of that in his graphic novel, doesn't he?
Right. So that final scene, and I think there's a couple of other instances of it in there as well, but this is Devon Palmer, the artist we interviewed for I think episode 8, 7, something like that. Somewhere in there.
Right.
It was he's the guy that made the Eldalie graphic novel, which you can see for free if you go to his site, which you can find on our a link to it on our website. Yeah, the swan. There's a swan ship and a few different.
Right. So that's when they mentioned the swans in there pulling the ships.
Right.
I was like, oh, that's what that was about.
Yeah.
So, but it was, it's just a neat picture again to think of. Those beautiful, graceful swans, I'm thinking just too how long the Teleri had been away from their kin, and now they're, going back to be reunited with them.
Riding swans.
Riding swans. Kind of give me the warm fuzzies.
Yeah, cool. Sweet.
I did a Leaf by Niggle one too, because I couldn't remember if we had talked about doing that or not. But
I haven't written my Leaf by Niggle ones yet, so maybe we need to save those for another.
All right, yeah, let's save that.
Yeah. I feel like I could do a lot about Leaf by Niggle.
Yeah, I feel like I could.
Maybe we just need to do a whole like bonus Leaf by Niggle episode on just Leaf by Niggle haikus.
Leaf by Niggle haikus. Just take it like page by page and have a haiku about each. Yeah, that's pretty packed. That's actually not a bad idea.
Yeah, well, we'll see.
Do that.
Let's mull that one over.
All right. Well, anyway, for now, back to the elves.
Yeah, let's talk about chapter 5. So we start out, and the elves are kind of hanging out on the shores of Beleriand at the mouth of the river Sirion. Right? So if you look at your map there in the back, can you find that there?
Slowly but surely.
No, the very back.
The very back. Oh, yeah. Okay.
I meant, can you find the river, not can you find the map?
John, it's me you're talking to. Come on now.
Slowly but surely, I'll find that map. Give me enough time. I'll just look in this hole in the
I just couldn't find it on my phone. I was looking in Google Maps, and I was like, what are you talking about?
Google Valerion. I wonder if you Googled Valerion in Google Maps, if it would come up. I hope it would. Don't do it right now.
Okay. You got me curious.
Yeah, I know.
But yes, I have the map now.
We'll do a bonus episode on that. I'm Googling different places in Middle Earth and seeing if they actually show up in Google Maps. See if they actually
show up in Google Maps. That would be pretty awesome. And if not, you could put that on your to-do list to develop a Tolkien version of Google Maps.
Right.
I want to go to there. Tell me, Google, how do I go?
That's kind of a really good idea, man. Yeah.
And it's the haikus. They got my creative juices.
If only things like that had the ability to make money in this world, the world would be a better place.
You don't think that could make money? You don't think people would pay for?
I'm sure I could figure out. I'm sure somebody could figure out a way to make money off of it. I mean, if you had enough time and resources, but. Well, but then again, you'd have to get the rights probably to do it too. So
yeah, that might be a lot of work.
All right,
but I did find the map in the book.
Good. Did you find the mouth of the river Sirion?
Not yet. I found lots of other rivers.
Look
Is it in the east or the west?
Well, it's in the east in the west because it's hitting the sea, right? The mouth.
Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay. What was the name of the river again?
Sirion.
Yep, I got it. Yep.
Yeah, there you go.
I got it.
Well, so that's where they're like hanging out. That's where the elves are hanging out, basically, at the beginning of this chapter. Mm-hmm. And they hang out there for a while, and then finally, Ulmo basically has counsel with the Valar and figures out that he's going to, in order to move this massive group of people across the great ocean, he's going to uproot this island, as we spoke about. Mm-hmm. But the first time through, only the Valar, or only the Vanyar and the Noldor make it.
Right.
Only the Vanyar and the Noldor actually participate in this,
and
all of them do. All of them make this journey.
All of the Vanyar and all the Noldor. Right. The Teleri had the opportunity, didn't they?
They did, but what was the deal with them?
They didn't want to leave because they were still hoping to find Elwë, right?
Well, that's part of it. But they also love the seas, and they love the sound of the sea,
and
so they didn't.
The waves,
part of them didn't want to depart the shore, and also you had Ose doing a little bit of, remember Ose? He's Ulmo's Maiar,
right?
But he and Ulmo have kind of a tense relationship, right? Remember if you remember that from Valaquenta.
Yes.
Ose doesn't always see eye to eye with Ulmo, and so in this case, he really likes Ose is kind of like his dominion under Ulmo are like the shorelands of Middle Earth.
Right.
And so he really likes having the Teleri on the shorelands of Middle Earth to sing, because they sing beautiful music.
I see. Okay.
So, there's kind of this tension going on, and Ose instructs them in the ways of beautiful music. They hang out, they stay behind for a time. And so he breaks it down. Eventually they do come, but he breaks it down, and he mentions two groups of Teleri that never actually do make it over, even though most of the Teleri eventually leave. Do you remember who they were? So the first we already know is like Thingol's, Elwë's people, right? Elwë's group. And they're called the... where's the name? I had it written down somewhere. The Eglath. The Forsaken People.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. The desire of Aman was ever in their hearts, even though they did not ever go. The desire of Aman was ever in their hearts.
Right.
And in a way, they had a little taste of Aman because of Elwë, who had been there already, right? He had been there once, had come back. And they had Melian, right, as their queen, who was a Maiar, who was a Maya, and so had seen had been in the presence of the light of Valinor for a long time. What's really what happened to Elwë when he spent a bunch of time in the presence of Melion? Do you remember? Like how did he change?
Oh, he basically he became to resemble like one of the Maiar, right? Like didn't he? It says that he had like really long silver hair. And,
yeah, there at the bottom of page 58.
Yeah.
It says his people gathered about him in joy when he finally did show up. So it was about time, man. I mean, you're looking pretty good, but by the way, we missed the boat. His people gathered around him in joy, and they were amazed. For fair and noble as he had been, now he appeared, as it were, a lord of the Maiar. Mm-hmm. His hair is gray silver, tallest of all the children of Iluvatar, and a high doom was before him.
There's that word, doom. Doom,
yes, yes. High doom is very much before him, mm-hmm. And so Elwë and his people, the Egloth, stay behind and establish a kingdom eventually in Beleriand.
Right.
And then there's one other group of people that stay behind. Do you remember who that was? It's actually a little bit further up.
I don't remember. Was it the Falathrim?
Yes.
Yeah.
Falathrim.
Falathrim.
I think that's how you say that. So
the Elves of Falas.
Right. And then their lord is Círdan the Shipwright.
Right.
What's really interesting about him is he is a Lord of the Rings figure.
Oh,
he actually exists in Lord of the Rings.
I didn't recognize that name.
He is like the Lord of the Grey Havens. So you remember the place where Frodo and Bilbo and Gandalf and everybody depart from Middle Earth to go over to Valinor, to go into the West. You remember that?
Yeah.
The very end?
Yes.
Well, that's Círdan's realm that they travel to in order to make that voyage.
Okay.
Right? And so he kind of is the gatekeeper for the seas to go over into the West.
I see.
Right?
Okay.
So he doesn't play a huge role in it, but he is actually one of the possessors up to a certain point of one of the Elvish rings, actually, later on. So and a fairly important figure. Doesn't play a huge role in anything, but he is a known figure. So that sets the stage. That's what happens with the Vanyar, the Noldor, and the Teleri. So why don't we? I think let's pause there, and we'll take a quick commercial break, and then we'll come back and we'll finish up the chapter. Sound good?
Sounds perfect.
All right.
Let's do it.
Do you know the tale that Tolkien called the kernel of the Middle-earth mythology? Beren and Luthien is the story of an outlaw mortal and an elvish princess tasked with obtaining a Silmaril, one of the holy jewels of the Blessed Realm, from the Iron Crown of the Dark Lord Morgoth. In my new book, Tolkien's Requiem, I explore the legend of these doomed lovers. In doing so, I aim to provide a backdoor into the world of the Silmarillion for those who have struggled to give it a go. One of Tolkien's greatest achievements, the story of Beren and Luthien, deserves to be as well known as The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. Get your copy of Tolkien's Requiem today by visiting truemyths.org/Beren. That's truemyths.org/BEREN. Happy reading! All right, and we're back. Okay, so when we left off, the peoples the Vanyar and the Noldor had made the trip on the island ship across the Great Sea over to Aman.
Yeah, what's the name of that sea again that they travel over?
Because
I can't tell from the map.
Belagair.
Belagair?
Belagair. Maybe. Hold on, let me see what that translates to. The Great Sea, as I was referring to.
I just don't see it on the map. That's why I'm confused.
See these big letters right here?
Oh.
Yeah.
I was looking in the wrong
the
direction.
Giant letters. You were looking at Google Maps again, weren't you?
Darn it! I'll get it straight one of these days.
All right.
Alright, yeah, so the Noldor and the Vanyar have been pulled across the sea on an island by Ulmo.
Right.
Right, and then the Teleri stay behind.
Right. Now, before we get back to the Teleri, it talks a little bit about what happens with the Vanyar and the Noldor over in Aman when they get there. Okay?
Right.
So you get, first of all, the island gets a name, which is, do you know what the name is?
I don't.
Well, it's written in there.
I know. I told you this chapter was hard for me.
Okay. Yeah, it's kind of a difficult chapter if you never read it before.
I had a really hard time figuring out what was what.
Lots of new names going on.
Lots of new names, yes.
Tol Eressëa.
I was going to say that, the Lonely Isle.
Well, then darn it, say it.
I didn't know how to pronounce it.
Reach on out there and take a chance.
All right. The Lonely Isle.
Mm-hmm. Good. Yes, the Lonely Isle.
It was not moved again.
That's right.
I thought that was funny that they had to specify that, like the island wasn't moved again.
Right.
It was where it was going to stay. They just tossed anchor, and they're like, okay, well, no, that's good enough. You don't need to be pulling around any more islands.
That's right.
We're good right here.
Yeah. Stop pulling around islands. That's weird. I mean, you're making us uncomfortable.
We're starting to get a little seasick.
Yes.
It needs to stop.
Right. Yeah, and you know, one little sort of touching thing is this little bit where Fenway, who, do you know who Fenway is?
Yeah, he's isn't he Elway's brother?
No, I don't think. Well, they're not brothers because I don't think they have. I think they're like the first generation.
Well, he's not
of
the
Elves.
guy that took over for Elway then.
So in a way, I guess they're brothers, but not like brothers from the same mother or something like that. You know, like they're just
right.
They're just like the
they're
first generation of elves
from different mothers.
Well, I don't even know if they had mothers.
Okay,
it's all very mysterious.
Very mysterious. Well, he's another king, right? He's another elvish.
Yes,
king.
He is of the who.
Of the Noldor.
Of the Noldor, that's right.
That was a good guess.
Yeah, do you know who the king of the Vanyar is? Do you remember?
Of the Vanyar. It ends with an A, I think. Doesn't it?
Yeah.
But I don't remember.
I like all of the king's names.
Exactly. I know how it ends. I just don't know what's at the beginning.
It starts with something and ends with an A.
Yep, that's it.
And it ends with a way. Ingve. Yeah.
Oh, is it Olwe?
No, it's Ingve. Olwe is the king of the Teleri now, right? Because Elway didn't.
Oh, he's the guy that took over for Elway.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, Ingve is the king of Ingwe. I don't know if you say Ingwe or Ingve. I don't know. I want to say Ingve because I feel like for some reason I need to say the W as a V in this case. In that case,
okay.
But maybe it's just Ingwe.
Okay.
So anyway, it's touching because Fenway is basically disappointed that Elway will not be making the journey and that he's never going to see him again. Right. So
except
it says
in the hall of
except
Mandos.
in the halls of Mandos.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And the Teleri abode there, as they wished under the stars of heaven, and yet with insight of Aman and the deathless shore. Okay, so they are hanging out on the lonely island, and everybody else is like in the land. So there's no map of this.
So that's where the Teleri are.
But if you look in that, yeah, all right. So this I was wrong. So the Teleri at this point have actually made the journey. Okay, but they don't get all the way. They basically get right up to the shore of Aman on the lonely island.
Okay.
And they just stop there because they don't want to finish the journey because they don't want to have to leave the sea behind, right?
Right. Yeah.
Because they love the sea too much.
Yeah.
Exactly. So they're like within sight of Aman and the deathless shore, but they are not ready to completely finish the journey. And what's the result of that? Of them being still separated from the Vanyar and the Noldor. Do you remember? It says there at the bottom of the first chapter first paragraph on 59.
Yeah, what does that mean? Sundering of their speech. Does that mean and by that long sojourn apart in the lonely isle was caused the sundering of their speech from that of the Vanyar and the Noldor? Is that what you were getting at?
Yeah.
What does that mean, the sundering of their speech?
So sundering just means like the breaking apart, like so they don't
Which
have
means
one,
that their language was different.
Yeah, they don't have one language anymore.
I see. Yeah. Okay. So they couldn't communicate in the way that they were used to communicating.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, they're no longer able to just speak to each other in the same language. And, whenever that happens, there's always a tension, right? Whenever there's a breakdown in communication.
There's a language barrier. Yeah.
There's always problems that arise from that. Mm-hmm. So maybe a slight bit of foreshadowing there.
Let me ask you a quick question before we get too much further. I was wondering, now I know we talked about this a little bit before, but is it Osei? Osei is,
you mean Olmo's vassal?
Olmo's vassal, Osei. It says he called to them, meaning the host of Olwe, which are the Teleri, right? That Osei called to them, and they knew his voice, and he begged Olmo to stay their voyage. Mm-hmm. And Olmo granted their request. Why? What was his deal? Why did he not want the Teleri to go? Why did he do that? Because wouldn't the Teleri have made it all the way if Osei hadn't begged?
I'm sorry,
Olmo
where are you?
Stop it?
Where did you read this?
The bottom of page 58, the beginning of that first paragraph.
Now Osei followed after the host of Olwe, and when they were come to the Bay of Eldamar, which is Elvenhome, he called to them, and they knew his voice and begged Olmo to stay their voyage. Mm-hmm.
And at his bidding, Osei made fast the island and rooted it to the foundations of the sea.
Yeah.
Right, so that's why they didn't make it all the way.
Right.
Because Osei intervened.
Right.
Why? That seemed a little selfish to me. I didn't like that he did that.
That Osei did that?
Yeah.
Well, because that's what the Teleri wanted. They weren't ready to completely finish the journey.
So it was the Teleri's decision to not go all the way. So the way I read it was that the Teleri were ready to go all the way. Mm-hmm. And Osei was like, no, Olmo, don't let them leave. I love them too much. I'll be lost without them.
Yeah, because it says, there the Teleri abode as they wished under the stars of heaven.
So that's what they wanted.
Yeah.
Okay, because I was a little annoyed with Osei because I feel like he meddled where he shouldn't have meddled, and it was basically his fault that the Teleri didn't, that they were.
Well, I'm sure he played a part in it. I mean,
okay.
I'm sure it's a little warranted to be, to be upset at him, but I don't know. He, like it says, it's what the Teleri wanted.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So in a way, he was advocating for them.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting question. So now they're within the sight of the two trees, okay, or at least the light of the two trees. Another interesting Lord of the Rings related note here is you remember the movie? Do you remember the movie or reading the books where the Gondor, the symbol of Gondor was like the white tree, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's the hint here, right? So, excuse me. Down here at the bottom of page 59, it talks about I believe it's the Vanyar, or is it the Nold? No.
It was the Vanyar.
Yeah, the Vanyar and the Noldor. Yeah. In all things in Valinor, they loved most the white tree. Yavanna made for them a tree like a lesser image of Telperion, save that it did not give light of its own being. Galathilion, it was named in the Sindarin tongue. It was planted in the court, so there's kind of a descent of different trees down to Nimloth, the white tree of Numenor. And that Numenor is a second age of Middle-earth thing.
Okay.
But it's what eventually Gondor and the kingdom of Gondor descends from.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And that's why that symbol is there. So
I see. Okay.
Yeah, so it's a reference. It harkens back. That symbol harkens back to the two trees, and specifically to Telperion.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting little note there.
Okay, that is interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought I was kind of, when I was reading that and then the paragraph above, I kind of had to chuckle at myself because I felt like the Valar were just like that. You really got this picture that they were just there to please the elves. They were like, "Well, your wish is my command." They talked about how once the Vanyar and the Noldor they'd already given them like this amazing place to live, right?
Mm-hmm.
With, I mean, just this, beautiful flowers and, all this stuff. But what they really wanted was to see the stars.
Yeah.
And so they're like, oh, yeah, no problem. And they just, like, ripped, like, this hole, like, in this, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then they built, like, this huge hill for them to live on. And then they're like, oh, you really like this white tree? Here, I'll build you one just like it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I thought it was very endearing to me. Just, the way the Valar, it just seemed like they just wanted that they existed to fulfill the needs and the wants of the elves.
Yeah, that is an interesting point. You think of the Valar as being superior beings to the elves, but they really, they do have this attitude of servitude almost. Like that they're there to serve. It's almost like that. It's almost like the idea of servant leadership. I never really thought of it in that way before, but. It's almost like the Valar, when they're at their best, realize that they're there to serve everything in Middle Earth and not the other way around. You know, like that's one of the temptations of power, right? That was Melkor's problem. Is he views everything as there to serve him and to further glorify him. Right. Yeah. And I think the Valar can maybe threaten to slip into that sometimes. I think. I was thinking for a minute, like, because there was that whole question about whether they should just leave the elves to live in Middle Earth and beautify it, or whether they should bring them over. And I think we discussed that a few chapters ago. But and I think some Valar advocated for leaving them, and some advocated for bringing them over. And eventually, they brought them over because Melkor was up to his his dirty deeds. But anyway, that again made me think of kind of the opposite too. It's like, are they almost being a little bit too? Are they like Eldalie? Are they all kind of doing things like Eldalie, where they're so excited about the children of Iluvatar, and they want to have these like little brothers and sisters to teach, and they just keep almost overstepping their bounds in a way, by bringing them over when they really should leave them, leave them be. Right.
Maybe they're coddling them too much.
But at the same time, Manwë, I think, asked Iluvatar. He did his Manwë thing and went and meditated until he felt like he had the answer from Iluvatar, and then and that was the final answer there. So apparently, it's what Iluvatar wanted. Maybe.
Yeah. It is. But I just thought that was it kind of showed a different side of the Valar. Yeah. Just how willing and they were to just really create whatever the Vanyar and the Noldor wanted.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so from here at the bottom of 59 and then moving on, it starts to break down the different groups, the different groups of elves, and speak a little bit more about each one of them. And also kind of associate them with a particular Valar and Vala. Right. So Manwë and Varda loved most the Vanyar, the fair elves. But the Noldor were beloved of Eldalie, and he and his people came often among them. Great became their knowledge and their skill, yet even greater was their thirst for more knowledge. And in many things they soon surpassed their teachers. And then, of course, the Teleri already have kind of an understanding with Ulmo, right? With Ulmo and especially with Ase, apparently. Right. So you see that little correlation there with those three original of the most important Valar, Ulmo, Eldalie, and Manwë. Each of them has a particular group of elves they kind of latch onto. Right. Now, there's a nice little note there at the bottom. So what are the Noldor really like? What are the Vanyar really into? Actually, we might not talk much about that.
I think we just know that they're pretty.
Yeah, we just know that they're fair. What are the Noldor really into?
They like Eldalie. They like to create and they like to explore. It says that they dug up gems right? And then they made things.
Yeah.
Out of the gems.
So they made beautiful jewels, and they were really great with words as well. So they were wordsmiths and makers, right? So you can think of them basically as makers, okay?
Okay.
They are, they made beautiful things.
Yep.
And what it says there at the bottom is very important. They at the bottom of that paragraph, they hoarded them not, but gave them freely, and by their labor enriched all Valinor. Mm-hmm. So you see, like, initially they used these gifts for enrichment, and it was about, just about, putting them everywhere. And later on, it actually says, I think it says something about the shores of the Teleri were just like strewn with beautiful jewels that the Noldor had given them.
They're just like throwing gems at them.
Yeah, these beautiful gems. So you just think about that. Like it's totally like they just want to make beautiful things and then give them to everybody
and then share them. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So very very cool thought. Now, and it also says right after that, the Noldor afterwards came back to Middle-earth, and this tale tells mostly of their deeds. And so he goes into talking more about the Noldor and laying out who some of the different Noldor are. So that's important to note, though. As we move on, the story really becomes about the Noldor and and the things that they do, and eventually they come back to Beleriand and the things that they do over there.
Right. Okay.
Now, Elwë will eventually come back into the picture as well. We'll talk about him more often as Thingol, but he comes back into the picture, as do the Noldor.
Okay.
So Noldor again. Who's their High King?
Finwë.
Right, and who are his sons?
Finwë. He has let's see, Fëanor, and Fingolfin, and Finarfin.
Finarfin.
I thought that was a funny name.
Finarfin. Yeah, why do you think it's funny?
Because it sounds like it should be a verb. Like, yeah, I was just out, like, walking around Finarfin. Drinking some juice and Finarfin.
Drinking some juice and Finarfin. Rolling down the street, Finarfin. Sipping on juice. Yeah, all right.
Yeah, something like that.
Finarfin. Yeah, that'd be an interesting question. What would... If Finarfin were a verb, what would it mean?
What would it
mean?
mean?
Here we go. Maybe a question for our listeners.
Yeah.
So, if Finarfin were a verb, what would it mean? I wonder if Finarfin actually has a meaning in the glossary. If his name actually has a meaning, or if it just says who he is.
Well, I was wondering, while you're looking that up, I was wondering, why did they make the distinction that one of those sons was from one woman, and then the other two were from another?
Well,
is that important?
Well, do you think it would be important? What do you think? Like,
I'm thinking it must be, because he took the time to note it.
Yeah.
But then again, Tolkien does seem to, just like to.
Yeah, I mean, I think just from a literary position, whenever you note things like that, I feel like it's a way of foreshadowing that there's probably going to be problems here.
I see.
I mean, you think about just normal human relations. Like whenever there's a family that the kids aren't all from the same mother, there's going to be some increased weirdness there. There's going to be some increased tension, and they're not going to feel completely like kin.
Yeah, that's true. Okay. Yeah.
Ideally they would, but they won't necessarily because there exists your mom is this person and your mom is this person.
Right.
We don't know much about that story yet, but we'll learn more about that story, how that came to happen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But you just think about it. There's there's always if there's different scenarios, right? Maybe Finwë has two wives, and so there's going to be a case where one wife and child probably feel, or one wife probably is not treated the same as the other wife, or feels like she's not treated the same as the other wife.
Right.
If it's I'm not saying that's true. In this case, if it's a case of one dying, right? then one is going to feel like my mother died and now you're remarrying this other woman, you know.
Right.
So there's going to be some tension there. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
And of course, he marries the second wife is Indis, the Vanyar of the Vanyar. So he marries outside of the Noldor, right?
Oh, yep.
As well.
Yep.
So, yeah. So it says about Feanor, he was the mightiest in skill. So Feanor is a very important figure. He is very important. Fingolfin and Finarfin play their own roles, but Feanor is the mightiest of all in skill of word and of hand, more learned than his brothers, and his spirit burned as a flame. In fact, his name Feanor means fiery spirit. Right?
That's appropriate.
I believe that's right. Let me double check that. Let's see here. Spirit of fire. Yes, spirit of fire.
Is he in Lord of the Rings at all?
Feanor?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
He might
name sounded a little.
His name might come up there, but he's not in it.
I see. Okay.
Gotcha. And
And
so Feanor marries a Teleri. I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. No, you're right. I'm sorry. Feanor, Finarfin. Finarfin marries a Teleri. I'm sorry.
Right.
He marries Eowyn, the Swan Maiden of Aqualande, Olway's daughter.
That's Arwen from Lord of the Rings.
No, not Arwen. This is Eowyn.
Eowyn. Okay.
Yeah.
My bad.
Arwen is the daughter of Elrond. Right?
That's right.
Elrond is not around yet.
I see.
But I will fast forward real quick while on that note. Who does come up?
Galadriel,
right? Galadriel is a Noldor. She is of the Noldor, and she is a daughter of, a sister of.
Fingolfin.
Yeah.
Finarfin.
I'm sorry. She is a daughter of Finarfin.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where she comes from. She goes way back, even before Elrond, even before a lot of these other folks. And it's interesting to note that she's like one of the only figures in Lord of the Rings. In fact, she may be the only one who has actually seen the light of Valinor. Right? She's actually been in the presence of the light of Valinor. Okay,
right.
Which is an interesting note about her.
Yeah.
I think there's actually some other minor figures that were in there, but of course, she's a major one. So you can understand why she's like so great in Middle Earth,
gotcha.
Right?
Yeah,
because she's been over here.
Right.
Her hair was lit with gold, as though it had caught in a mesh of the radiance of Laurelin. Okay.
What is Laurelin again?
Laurelin is the gold tree.
The gold tree.
Yeah, the gold tree.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, Telperion is the silver tree. Laurelin is the gold tree.
Okay.
So it says back before that, though, Feanor had 7 sons, right? Methros, Maglor, Kelagorm, Caranthir, Curufin, Amrod, and Amras. And again, they're very important too. They play a major role. They all eventually come back to Middle Earth.
Okay.
So basically, you have all these different figures who are going to be important later on in the story. Their names will come up again and again, and they all begin with F.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Or C.
Actually, not all of them. Yeah, F or C. Yeah, they all begin with F or C. Few M's in there too. Few A's. So, but Feanor, Fingolfin, and Finarfin. So, yeah.
Yep.
Well, I think Fingolfin could be a verb too. Hey man, what you been up to? Just been Fingolfin.
See, you were about to say Finarfin.
No, I was about to say just golfing, but I said Fingolfin.
Yeah, I guess that works. I feel like it doesn't roll off the tongue as easily as Finarfin.
Mm-hmm.
Like Finarfin just sounds like, it sounds like an awesome way to spend your day.
To
spend your day.
Dude,
it's like chillaxin,
right.
but to the next level.
Chillaxin to the next level.
Chillaxin squared would be Finarfin.
Dude, I totally was just Finarfin today.
Does that sound like something Wayne and Garth would say?
Yeah, I guess.
I think it does.
Yeah.
Hey Garth, let's go do some Finarfin.
Yeah. Man, stop Finarfin around. We got some work to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Were you talking to me?
No, I was just like trying to. I was trying to use it. I'm trying to like envision using it in another sentence.
Oh, okay.
But I'm trying to think of Fingolfin. Like Fingolfin sounds like it's like an awesome sport, you know.
That's just because it's golf in the word.
Yeah.
Yeah. It makes me think of dolphins.
Yeah, dolphins playing golf.
Yeah, exactly.
Dolphins playing golf.
Fin golfing.
Fingolfin. There you go. Yeah.
That's it.
They're using their fins and they're hitting golf balls.
Yes,
yeah.
exactly.
That's
in the wide open seas.
That's right.
That's what it is. Fingolfin is the dolphin form of golf.
Yeah. Speaking of interesting names, did you notice another interesting name for a place?
For a place?
One kind of unfortunate name for a place.
Felagund?
No.
No. I don't think I did.
Tyrion upon
Tuna.
Oh,
Tyrion
Tuna. Upon Tuna.
Is
yeah.
that how you say that?
I think so.
Okay, because that's how I said it in my head, and I was like, that can't be right.
That can't be right. How else would you think to say it?
Tolkien's too good for that. Well, because of that little accent over the U.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of. I was wondering if it's supposed to be like Tana or like I'm trying to think of the different sounds that you can make without saying its name. It's like
Yeah, I'm looking back here at the notes on pronunciation. And names like Hurin, Turin, Tuna should be pronounced U. So, tuna.
So it is tuna.
It is tuna. Yeah.
It's tuna.
Very much tuna.
It's like the big tuna.
Yeah. So if we look at that, they've each got their own little abode. Each group has its own little abode there.
Right.
In Amon.
When we say each little group, we're talking about the Vanyar and the Noldor
and the Teleri.
And the Teleri, right? Yeah. Okay.
The Vanyar, the Vanyar and Noldor originally start out on, where is it? Man, so many names, and I'm just totally losing this one here. It's basically like they basically start out in this place that's almost like a small version of Manwë's tower. Where is it? I can't believe I can't find it. I thought I had it underlined. Well, anyway, it'll come to me. The Teleri, of course, get Alqualande, which is the haven of the swans. And then eventually, the Vanyar get kind of tired of just hanging out in their little elf home in Amon, and they decide just to go live with Manwë.
Right.
Right.
That made me laugh.
Yeah, they go even further, and they're just like, you know what? We're just gonna go live with Manwë and hang out with Manwë because he's the coolest.
Right. To go knock on his door.
I mean,
hey, we know like you're like the king of the Valar and everything, but hey, can we crash here, please?
Yeah. Forever.
Yeah. You know we're mortal, right? So
forever.
It's going to be a long time.
Dude, we heard this place was totally Finarfin.
Did you just use it as an adjective?
I did just use it as an adjective.
Oh, man. Yeah. I don't know if I like it better as an adjective or a verb.
Man, it's great living here with Manwë. We just spend all day Fingolfin.
They can't Fingolfin because they're not dolphins.
Oh yeah, the Teleri spend all day Fingolfin.
That's right, because they're the sea people.
Golfing with dolphins.
Or they watch Fingolfin.
Yeah, they watch Fingolfin?
They watch Fingolfin.
Well, why couldn't the Vanyar watch Fingolfin?
They watch Fingolfin while Finarfin. And wheezing juice.
That was an Encino Man reference.
Encino Man.
Yeah.
I'm getting my movies mixed up.
Yeah, stop wheezing the juice.
Stop wheezing
the juice.
And harshing my buzz.
Yeah.
That's something else that you definitely don't want to do while you're Finarfin is harsh somebody's buzz.
I don't even know what we're talking about anymore.
Me neither.
All right. Okay. Right. I think I might need to make this explicit. I don't know. We'll see.
Oh, we haven't been that bad.
Yeah, I don't know.
I do think it's very funny.
I'm just afraid of getting shut down by the language police.
With all our bad pronunciations, you mean?
Right.
Or did we did we poke a little too much fun at Tolkien's names? Is that the problem?
That's right. Yeah.
I'm sorry, dude. If you're gonna name one of your guys Finarfin, you gotta see it coming. You just got to.
Well, if you're gonna name a place Tuna,
exactly,
yeah.
And Mount Doom. Come on.
Yeah, you got to give him credit though for all the other awesome names he came up with.
Oh, totally. So, I mean, when you have as many names,
he was probably up late one night, and he was just kind of like, man, I've been writing for like days, and I've just been coming up with name after name. I don't know. Whatever. We'll just call this one Tuna. You know? I'm just done. I'm spent.
I'm done.
I have no more names. No more cool names left in me. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Tuna. That sounds like a good name.
Sounds like a good name.
Let's do that.
Done. Yeah. Done and done.
Put that one on the press.
Yes.
I did think it was very funny that the Vanyar just were like, forget this. Like, we're just gonna go chill with Monway.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that was I thought that was very funny.
Yeah.
That it shows too that relationship. I think.
Oh, they live in Tirion upon Tuna. Why couldn't I think of that? Good grief! Yes,
we were just
that's
talking
where they live.
About that forever.
I know. For some reason, I thought it was a different name, but that's right. Yeah. So yeah, and then the Vanyar. So there it is. The bottom of 61. They forsake Tuna. Sorry. I wrote that down.
Just like my children have forsaken Tuna for Elves.
They forsake.
Oh.
Hey, Mom, what are we having for dinner? We're having Tirion upon Tuna.
No, we had forsaken that.
We're forsaking that.
Yeah.
And then old Noldor comes up and is like, "Oh, I love Tirion upon Tuna."
I'll take some of that.
Oh, I'm sorry, Tolkien. We're making fun of your names here. I feel bad because I love Tolkien so much.
You know what? That's a way.
He probably had darn good reasons for naming it this,
sure
and we sound like complete idiots right now.
Probably do.
So,
but we're having a good time.
We're having a good time. You got to have a little fun with this sometimes because it's
especially with this chapter where it's just like blah blah blah, name here, name there,
and Jehoshaphat begat so and so,
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's not that bad. There's still some stuff going on.
It could be worse, but it's I gotta admit, it's a bit of a letdown after reading about Fingal and Melion.
Yeah.
Because that was just like,
Schwing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can't get better than Schwing.
Right.
So the Vanyar, I'm not going to be able to say it, but they forsake their old home and then they go hang with Monway.
Right.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And then where are the Noldor?
They abode with Monway at the feet of Monway upon Tanaquettle. And so Monway must be pretty tall. No, I think that just means like hanging out with him.
Probably.
That's just a way of saying. Yeah, Finarfin, just Finarfin.
Finarfin, Monway.
Hey, what you guys up to? I don't know, just Finarfin. Yeah.
Where are the Noldor now?
So the Noldor remain in Tirion upon Tuna.
They do stay there.
But it says Fëanor and his sons abode seldom in one place for long, but traveled far and wide upon the confines of Valinor, going even to the borders of the dark and the cold shores of the outer sea, seeking the unknown. So there's a restless streak in Fëanor.
Yeah,
he's just not content just to hang out in Amon.
Yep.
He wants to make stuff and he wants to go journeying, and he's just restless. It says, often they were guests in the halls of Eldalie, but Celegorm went rather to the house of Orome, right, the writer, and there he got great knowledge of birds and of beasts, and of all their tongues and I really like this part. He says, for all living things that are or have been in the kingdom of Arder, save only the fell and evil creatures of Melkor, lived then in the land of Aman, and there also were many other creatures that have not been seen upon Middle-earth, and perhaps never now shall be, since the fashion of the world was changed. Right, I thought that was cool that there's like all these other creatures that will never be seen because the fashion of the world has changed.
How has it been changed? Because of what Melkor did, or because of moving islands, or what?
Well, there's still more to come, right?
So it's again another like foreshadowing, like a transitional thing,
right?
Well, I know we mentioned this when I read my haiku, but we didn't talk about the Teleri. Are we going to go back?
Yeah, well, what did you have to say about the Teleri?
I was just wanted to say that that because when we last left them, they had stopped, right? Osei had intervened, and they were kind of got part way, but then stopped. And they could see everything, right?
Right.
But they didn't want to leave the sea. So they stopped, but then, I guess a long time, it says through a long age, they dwelt on their lonely isle, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they were torn between the love of music of they were torn between the love of the music of the waves upon their shores, and the desire to see again their kindred and to look upon the splendor of Valinor. But in the end, the desire of the light was the stronger.
Right.
I love that line. I thought that was really
the desire of the light was the stronger.
The light was the stronger. The light of Valinor, right?
Right, in the light of the two trees. Yeah.
The light of the trees. And so Ulmo, he submitted to the will of the Valar. He sends Osei, right, his vassal.
Right.
Says, hey, we need to let these people finish their journey. Right,
yes.
They're ready. And so it says though grieving taught them the craft of shipbuilding. So again, there's that servant, leadership kind of coming through where he was like, okay, I don't like this, but it's what's best for Teleri, who I love. So I'm gonna help them do this.
Right.
So they build their ships, and then the swans drew the white ships over the windless sea, and at last they came to Amon.
Mm-hmm. And the shores of Eldamar.
Yep.
And that's where they have Aqualande, which is their home. So they're still kind of on the shores. They don't go up. They don't move inland as far as the Noldor and the Vanyar do.
Right.
So they kind of have the best of both worlds for them because they're still at the sea, and I think does it say they still go to sea? Yeah. Anyway, I think they still do. I think they have their ships, but they can see Tirion upon Tuna and the crystal stairs of Tirion upon Tuna, but most of them sailed in their swift ships on the waters of the Bay of Elvenhome, or walked in the waves upon the shore, with their hair gleaming in the light beyond the hill. Many jewels the Noldor gave them, opals and diamonds and pale crystals, which they strewed upon the shores and scattered in the pools. Marvelous were the beaches of Elendë in those days.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about earlier. Yeah. So,
sounds like a pretty sweet place.
Yeah. I mean, a shore that's littered with opals and diamonds and crystals, so it's pretty awesome.
It does.
Yeah. Well, I think that's great that they've all been reunited.
Yeah.
Well, except for the two groups that stayed behind. But,
right. Well, and remember, there was all kinds of other elves that never even made it as far as that, right?
Right.
That stayed further behind.
That's
true.
That's true. Yeah.
So, yeah. And then men haven't even showed up at this point.
No.
Yeah, and the dwarves are still off Finarfin somewhere.
They are. Finarfin, underground.
Yeah.
They're Finarfin in Dreamland, though, right? Because
I think they're still asleep.
Yeah.
I guess I was trying to make Finarfin a word about, like, being lazy or something.
That's not what Finarfin's about.
Sorry.
Wayne and Garth would never Finarf if it was about being lazy.
No. Okay. Fair enough.
All right.
Well, I think any other thoughts?
I think we did that chapter justice.
Okay, good. You feel like we did that chapter justice?
I do. I have a much better understanding of it now.
Good. All right.
I'm not saying that I'll remember who anybody is or what any of those places are, but...
Well, with repetition comes
repetition is the mother of learning.
So
yeah, sounds good. So what are we doing next? Are we keeping on with the Silmarillion?
Yeah, I think we're going to do Chapter 6 next, which is Fëanor and the Unchaining of Melkor.
Oh, the Unchaining
of Melkor is kind of a little bit of a shorter chapter, but and then we're going to do Chapter 7. I don't know if we'll do that immediately after Chapter 6. We'll see. We'll see. We got some other stuff we want to do. Other stuff on the plate. I've been thinking about maybe trying to look at some of his letters too, because he's got some really great letters that could be good conversation. And like I said before, I don't think I can get much further without starting Lord of the Rings, because I'm feeling like I want to read Lord of the Rings again soon. I think that would be fun to discuss.
I feel like even after just getting through 5 chapters of Silmarillion, I feel like I would already get so much more out of reading the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. Yeah, you totally do, and that's kind of why I want to reread it now, because I think it's been a while since I've read The Lord of the Rings. I think I may have read the Silmarillion a couple of times since I read it in full last. I also want to do Mythopoeia, which is
that's right,
Tolkien's poem that he wrote.
Yeah.
He wrote to C.S. Lewis,
Mm-hmm.
and then aren't you guys going to be reading on fairy stories for your homeschool tutorial?
Oh, is that listed?
I thought it was. Maybe we're just doing it in the upper level. So maybe
I
we'll do
looked at that.
on fairy stories would be a good one to do as well. It's a little more academic, but it's still really good for just to know what Tolkien was doing in his own works. So
awesome.
All right,
good stuff coming down the pipe.
Lots of good stuff coming. There's always plenty of good stuff with Tolkien.
No.
And trying to think about some other kind of art stuff we could look at too. Interviewing some other folks. So
yeah.
Yeah, and just more haikus, and we're just doing lots of stuff with Tolkien.
We are.
Yeah. All right.
Not the least of which is Finarfin. So.
Not the least of which is Finarfin. All right.
I think that's a wrap.
And that's a wrap. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate your listening.
Y'all.
Hey, if you enjoyed this episode, please go leave a rating on iTunes and leave us some feedback. We'd really love to hear from you. And doing so will help spread the word about the Talking Tolkien podcast. So, once again, thanks for listening. And until next time, have fun, Finarfin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bye, y'all.
Bye. Please remember to check out truemyths.org for show notes as well as other Tolkien goodness. Also, we hope you're enjoying this podcast as much as we are enjoying making it. Please leave us a rating and feedback on iTunes. On the next podcast, we will discuss Chapter 6 of the Silmarillion, of Fëanor and the Unchaining of Melkor. This is where things in Valinor begin to go very wrong, so be sure to tune in. Thanks for listening.